All right, it is 7, so I'm going to get the meeting rolling. I will call to order the February 5th, 2025 Planning Board meeting. If we could please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right.
So, Mr. Chair, we have a full complement tonight.
Yeah,
so you
this
don't
is
need
gonna-
to appoint anyone at all. so-
This is going to be the first time, I think, in almost 2 years that we actually have had a full board up here.
I think it was when I started.
Yeah,
It was the last
yeah.
time there was like a full, yeah.
So, new members, welcome again. Welcome.
you.
And it's exciting. We also have another welcome to do with our new town planner. Kelly will get into that in a minute. I kind of stole her thunder a little bit, but she'll get into it in a minute. Let's start with approval of minutes. We do have.
We have the minutes of
Yes.
January 8th.
I'm
So,
looking for a motion.
I'll move, Mr. Chair, that we approve the minutes of January 8th, 2025.
I have a motion from Mr. Rugg. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
I have a second from Lynn. If we could do a roll call vote, starting with Ann.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Barani, aye.
Lynn Wiles, aye.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Jeff Penta, aye.
Jason Knight's eye.
Sean Faber, aye.
John Cruz, aye.
Jake Butler, aye. All right, and the minutes of
9-0-0.
have been approved. Fantastic. All right, regional impact determinations, Ms. Karen.
None this evening, Mr. Chair.
Wonderful. Discussions with town staff.
Just one item, which you already took over.
Sorry.
Welcoming our new town planner, Kristen Farr.
Fantastic.
This is her third day, so
Awesome.
Nice.
she's happy to be here, and we're happy to have her.
Awesome. Kristen, welcome, and we look forward to having you, and thanks for joining the team here.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Nice to meet you all.
It's a good group, so.
Yeah, you'll see us all every day.
We like growl at each other, so.
But all right, we have no old business. We're going to get into some new conceptual plans. We have a public hearing on an application for formal review of a lot line adjustment to adjust the lot line between two parcels, 28 Jefferson Road, map 10, lot 76, Londonderry, map 29, lot 11-2, Derry, and 35 Hillside Avenue, map 10, lot 78-5, Londonderry, map 29, lot 300, Derry, zoned AR1. Donald F. Jr. and Deborah Monroe are the owners, and Strategic Contracting Company is the applicant. I will start with accepting this for completeness.
Mr. Chair, staff is recommending that the board accept this as complete after you act on two waiver requests as they relate to the checklist items.
Sure, okay, so we got some waivers on the checklist that you're looking to have us do first? Fantastic. So we have two waivers here. For the applicant's submission did not provide a high-intensity soil study, HIS, or lot size calculations per items 2.7, 3.24 of the checklist. The applicant has submitted a written waiver request for the requirement of the planning board's consideration. Do we want to take these separately or both at once?
We probably could take them together.
And we have a waiver request for wetland delineations per items 2.7 and 3.22 and 23 of the checklist. So I'm looking for a motion to accept these waivers.
Mr. Chair, I will make a motion that we accept the waivers for number 1 and number 2 that you had just mentioned, and for completeness discussion only.
I have a motion from Mr. Rugg. Do I have a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Second from Lynn. If we could do a roll call vote, starting with Ann, please.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Barani, aye.
Aye. Lynn Wiles.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Jeff Penta, aye.
Jason Knight's eye.
Sean Faber, aye.
John Cruz, aye.
Jake Butler, aye, and these waivers have been accepted for completeness purposes only. All right, now we have a motion. I'm looking for a motion to accept this application as complete.
Mr. Chair, I will move that we accept this application as complete. The board should waive the outstanding checklist items, which we already have for acceptance purposes only, If the applicant contends some checklist items are not applicable, the board should determine whether such items are really, truly not applicable.
We've done that, so we've got a motion to accept this as complete. Do I have a second?
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Second from Lynn. Roll call vote, starting with Ann, please.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Barani, aye.
Aye, Lynn Wiles.
Aye, Arthur Rugg.
Aye, Jeff Penta.
Jason Knights, aye.
Aye, Sean Faber.
Aye, Junkers.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Your application has been
Accepted as complete.
accepted as complete. Excuse me, I'm losing my words tonight. All right, sir, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, nice to see you again. The floor is yours.
I don't believe, were you here last time?
Oh, yeah,
There's so many of you, it's hard to keep you all
that's all
straight.
right.
We do that for a reason.
Be careful where the voices come from.
So, good evening. My name is Rob Deegan. I'm the land surveyor for this project with S&H Land Services. I guess I'll just talk about the project a little bit. So, we did a subdivision of the strategic property.
This is the only one.
And when I was here for the Concom meeting, we had a little remote that did like a pointer thing. Do we not have that?
Maybe?
See if that
We can try that.
one of these buttons? Nope. I just think I just made it worse. There we go. So this is the strategic property up here. And we did a subdivision of this land in dairy only, and it includes this additional land here that is in Londonderry. And at the time of the original subdivision, we highlighted to the developer that there were some encroachments onto the property from the abutting Monroe property. In here, the driveway was over the line, and they had some sheds and things. And the developer at the time didn't want to deal with it, so they just kind of ignored it. And then the strategic folks bought the property, and they are just attempting to deal with that issue and, do a lot line adjustment to just, put that driveway on its own lot. And so we were proposing to adjust that line as shown here. Most of these structures are just going to go away. Like, this is a dilapidated chicken coop that's not worth keeping or anything like that.
Price of eggs nowadays, so.
I don't think your chickens would want to live in this thing. Not much structure left to it. So the only structure they're actually keeping is this shed right here, and we're making sure that that meets the building setback. So as we said, we have requested waivers from soils and wetlands mapping. As you can see, the the Monroe property is an existing developed lot. It was constructed with variances from the Londonderry Zoning Board because it accesses down this long corridor. It's a former paper street and actually comes in from Derry. So they have no frontage. So they got variances for that back in, I want to say it was the 90s? Or, no, 80s. Back in the 80s. Existing 3-bedroom house. They have an existing septic system back here. The wells down here. And then the house for the strategic property is under construction, nearly complete, in Derry. That's here. And they have public water, and their septic system is here in Derry. So
There's no dairy sewer there?
there is not sewer in Derry there.
Thank you.
But the land that is in Londonderry is not needed for any of the lot requirements for the dairy house, and nor is it, necessary for the Monroe property. And it's just a bunch of basically unoccupied woodland and some yard, and there is no wetland on it. We know that because we did the subdivision there, but and we didn't. We're basically arguing that the high-intensity soil survey is unnecessary because it's not developable land. It is necessarily a part of the lot that's in Derry.
All right. I will start with staff. I'll come to the board, and then I will go to our public.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, just a point of clarification, I think the applicant's requesting the two waivers their entirety, not just for the checklist, so you'll need to take those two up again
Okay.
as it applies to the application as a whole. Outside of that, the remaining review comments from staff have to do with the encroachments that the applicant just outlined. We believe that can be addressed with staff after the fact, and then monumentation along the northerly lot line. These would be conditions of approval, again, that staff could handle. And so tonight, we're recommending conditional approval of this after you act on the waivers.
Fantastic. All right. I will start with the board. Ann,
I have no questions.
anybody? All right. This is, what's up, Mr. Rugg?
I was gonna say it's pretty straightforward, so.
This is a public hearing, so I will open up public comment. Seeing none, I will close public comment. Bring it back to the board. All right, board. First thing, I think we have to act on the waivers that we accepted as complete. For completeness, we need to accept those waivers, and then we can go to a conditional approval. So I am looking for a motion to accept the two waivers that we accepted for completeness. I'm looking to,
Section 310 and Section 311 of the subdivision
Perfect.
regulations.
fantastic. Looking for a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
I'll second that,
You
Mr.
can
Chair.
put the words that Kelly said in also.
Fantastic. I have a motion. I have a second. All in favor, starting with Ann.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Veroni, aye.
Lynn Wiles, aye.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Jeff Penta, aye.
Jason Knight's aye.
Sean Faber, aye. John Cruz, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. Your waivers have been accepted. All right. I am looking for a motion to grant conditional approval.
And, Mr. Chair, find it right here. Down in subsequent conditions
There
right
you go.
now.
Right there.
I will make a motion to grant conditional approval of a lot line adjustment to adjust the lot line between two parcels. Number 28 Jefferson Road, tax map 10, lot 76, Londonderry, tax map 29, lot 11-2, Derry, and 35 Hillside Avenue, tax map 10, lot 78-5, Londonderry, tax map 29, lot 300, Derry, zoned agricultural residential 1, Donald F.L. Jr. and Deborah Monroe are the owners, and Strategic Contracting Company, LLC, is the applicant, as included with the applicant's October 16th, 2024 formal submission, with the precedent conditions to be fulfilled within 2 years and prior to plan signature, and general and subsequent conditions of approval to be fulfilled as noted in the staff recommendation memorandum dated February 5th, 2025, and those comments set forth unless not adopted by the board.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second that, Mr. Chair.
Second by Lynn. All in favor with a roll call vote, starting with Ann.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Veroni, aye.
Aye. Lynn Wiles.
Arthur Rugg, aye.
Aye, Jeff Penta.
Jason Knight's aye.
Sean Faber, aye. John Cruz, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative, and we are granting you conditional approval.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. All right, on to the next one. We have, in other business, the public hearing on the adoption of the 2024, which is the fiscal year 26 to 31 CIP plan. The proposed plan can be viewed online or during business hours in the Planning and Economic Development Department. With that, Ms. Karen, I'll let you start.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, sorry, bear with. So this evening is a public hearing for our capital improvements plan. Typically, this is done in the fall, but we are a bit behind, so we're trying to formalize this with the planning board this evening, which entails you all finalizing the project rankings and prioritization within this plan. We do have our DPW director and our school board chair in the audience, should you have specific questions related to their projects. But outside of that, I think Mr. Penta is also prepared to give an overview of the CIP committee and its process that took place last year.
Fantastic. And Jeff, I'll let you take it over from there, sir.
Sure, thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Kelly. So the planning board under RSA 674:5 is responsible for preparing and annually updating Londonderry's capital improvements program plan. The 6-year plan identifies and prioritizes municipal projects and their costs, which then leads to and provides a roadmap to address current deficiencies in our plan for future growth. It's an advisory document. It's a town planning document. It's important, but it's really, I just want to kind of drive home the fact that this is an advisory document. The ultimate goal of it is, like I mentioned, to guide budgeting, stabilize taxes, coordinate projects between the school district and the town of Londonderry, and inform community what is what we're kind of inform the community of our municipal and capital improvement needs. From a process standpoint, the town and the school district, they annually submit projects for consideration in the plan. As folks that are very in depth with kind of past plans, they'll notice similar projects, same projects, as they mature, as they evolve, are listed in that plan. From those submissions, a CIP committee reviews and then prioritizes the projects. The CIP committee is made up of 2 members of the planning board this year, and I would encourage others to kind of also be part of this process next year when we nominate other folks. Anybody else? It was Mr. Butler and myself. From the town side, Councilor Ted Combs. From the budget committee side, Patrick Cassidy, chair, and from the school side, school chairman, Mr. Bob Slater. So the committee met, a few times in this past fiscal to lay out the organization as well as kind of review the projects. It's like Kelly mentioned, normally this is done a little bit towards the end of the summer, early fall, but for a variety of reasons, the timing was just not in the orbit for this year. So do take responsibility for that to a certain extent. That said, we're here and we are really kind of wanting to kind of present this plan. Kelly, if you could probably go to the scoring sheet. This here is, a very simple kind of overview of the projects that were submitted for this fiscal. As you can see, the school submitted 3 projects on the town side. The DPW master facility plan was also submitted, and I just want to kind of thank both Dave Wally for presenting that plan, that the thoroughness that went into there, the commitment to the town that he has laid out, in a very reasonable kind of fashion. So thank you for that. I also want to address and thank Mr. Slater and Miss Amity Small for their contributions to providing the school district projects. To just walk us through this a little bit, I'm just going to give you the Cliff Notes version. Bob, if you could just keep me honest on here, the SAU project and the the space needs for full day K in 3 different neighborhoods. We actually combined those and prioritize them as a one meaning kind of an urgent and necessary need. For the project for the high school auditorium, not the auditorium, the high school gymnasium project, we prioritize that as a 3, which is desirable. It's really kind of, we're looking at that as a 4 to 6 year aspect. As these roadmaps kind of mature, we'll most likely see that come down to a 1 or 2 as needs kind of come across. The DPW facility, the committee had a great conversation, and we actually also put that as a 1, as an urgent need. If anybody has, with the town's growth that we've had, the population growth that we've had, the various, the various developments and so forth, the reasonable growth that's been going on. If you look at the DPW facility, it's amazing that we have what we have, and while also updating incredible amounts of social media during key winter events. So if
Wally, the social media wizard.
yeah, right. If you need another job, social media manager is right up your alley. That said, though, I would encourage folks from the community and the town to kind of to understand the miracles that are happening because of really our team there. So that said, I think we might want to, Bob, if you want to just to kind of talk to us about the school projects. Mr. Cherry, I'll take your.
Yeah, I think,
of,
I think if you want to give us kind of a 30,000-foot view, obviously, we've already done this at the CIP, which is really where the work is put in, and then it just comes to the board here to kind of give it our blessing. If you want to briefly go over what you've presented, I know we had some different scores from what your recommendation was to what the CIP did. So if you just want to go through it real quick, and we can go from there.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate the time and all your time for what you do for the community. Just a quick overview. As you'll see, of course, everybody knows deliberative is 7 o'clock on Friday night for the school district and the town on Saturday, so hope to see you all there. We have a bond on hand this year that'll be on the warrant for the kindergarten / SAU project. Project we brought forward from after last year in March. People spoke, we heard them loud and clear. So we went back to the drawing board and worked through April, May, June, and then kind of honed in on the project we are presenting to the voters in March. We're going to add pull out kindergarten half-day program and go to a K-5 program in Londonderry. We found some space in each elementary school, a couple of classrooms, one classroom in Matthew Thornton being the center of town. Enrollment didn't drop down as much as north and south. With that, we brainstormed a little bit and came up with the idea of adding 2 modular units, not portables, modular buildings with 40 to 50 year lifespan buildings. These are highly built, not like years past. Brick siding to match the buildings, and that to add 2 at north, 2 at south, and 4 at Matthew Thornton, which will help us go to a full day kindergarten program. Then it opens up looking at Moose Hill School, the right side, will open up 6 or 7 classrooms, which we will remodel into district office space. As you know, they've been up at the north end of town for about 7 years at approximately a cost of $260,000 a year for a lease. That's within 3 years of it being up on the lease. So we felt as though economically that we could move them into that portion of the school, but yet give some nice classroom space for a full-day kindergarten program. And once we went through the numbers on this, we found it took care of two projects that the school district needed, as well as the town with the lease, and not knowing where we're going to go in 2 or 3 years and what the lease may be if we had to re-sign the lease up in the north end of town. So what it did is it opened up some opportunity. Then once we did some budgeting with the construction manager and came back with the numbers, and we found that we were going to save on midday bus runs because of the half-day program. Now the kindergarten kids will be on the regular school buses of the elementary schools. Then the lease of $260,000. Well, the savings on the buses is about $280,000 per year, about $260,000 savings on the lease. And then we get the full amount of adequacy per student. We only get half the adequacy amount that we get from first grade to 12th grade. So we get about $2,100 a year now for a half-day student. Now it'll jump up to $4,200, almost $4,300. So that brings in another $440,000 in revenue for the students, plus the savings puts us about $950,000 to the good. The bond on a 15-year for this project of $9 million with the district office and that, is about $759,000. And then we figure we had to add 2 teachers at about $183,000 per year, about $91,000 per teacher with all in. So with those 2 added, after year 3, once the bond is started and then a year to build, this would be a school year 26-27, not this coming September. And then we would need an additional 6 months to get out of district office. So that'll put us about a year and a half. But we felt as though come year 3, we're cash positive on this project for the taxpayers. The other good thing is we were fortunate enough this year with enrollment declining over the last 4 or 5 years of about 250 kids total throughout the district, throughout 6 buildings. And we've been able to eliminate some staff through attrition over the last 4 years. Our budget this year came in at about $30,000 below last year's budget and about $144,000 below default. So with those 2 working together, it looks like if everything was to get approved in March, we would be somewhere around 51 cents less per thousand tax-wise on the school side next year. So it's good all around for our taxpayers. It takes care of 2 major projects. It gives us more education needs for that half-day program first to a full-day program, which we see the needs in first and second grade over the last 5 to 8 years has really dropped off, being ready for grade 1 and grade 2, so we won't be playing catch-up. That's the most important part of this, is the education of our kids and trying to move that needle as we have been the last 2-3 years coming out of COVID. We've done a really nice job. Our superintendent and his staff have done a nice job educationally wise, and now we've got a good business model at the school district. I think we're going to share with the rest of the state on what we're trying to do here in Londonderry. We're spending a lot of time up at Concord the last few weeks and introducing it to different committees and financial departments. So we're excited about everything here because we're taking care of the needs of the community all together. Our taxpayers, our students, and just making that environment here in Londonderry robust again in our school district, which helps, as you know, a robust school district really helps, the community wholly. So I'm excited about it. I'm glad this plan worked out. I think it's going to be, the benefits are going to be huge for the community moving forward. It gives us other ideas. Just jumping on the high school quick, that number is inflated about $20,000 over the last 2 CIPs. Just so everybody knows, we haven't discussed that. We haven't looked at it. We've got a lot of changes going on in the high school coming up. We're adding some CTE programs. We're adding career pathways on our own. We've got a representative that's built them in Salem, built the CTE program in Salem at Pinkerton, working with us, a consultant, so we can start developing our own. We're talking with the fire department now to start one in September with EMT and fire, and then we're going to build off of that. We have some space in the high school, so that's going to take us a couple of years. We're putting a career pathways together. We're going to go out and introduce this to all our companies up at the airport, all through Londonderry for our juniors, our seniors. We got Build Back the Trades coming in here in April for an event on a Saturday. So we're really trying to give our kids that opportunity that hasn't been in Londonderry in a long time. We just see that opportunity needed more and more between trades, two-year schools, community colleges, and the four-year program. Of course, we want that if the students do, but we're really opening it up. And then we're gonna talk to businesses about sponsorships. And if we need, something at the schools, are they willing to help us sponsor? Anything we can do to help our taxpayers. So there's a little different outlook on the school side from years back. We've changed the model, and I think it's a good model for the community, knowing what everybody's going through. And, everybody's nervous a little bit, what's going on. And we're going to do our part over on that side of the street to help this side of the street so you guys can get what you want too in the town and that, because we know Dave needs his facility. So I think this is a win-win. I'm hoping it keeps going from here, and we can keep doing what we can do financially. But most importantly, we're really focused on the education piece, which the kids are starting to really thrive. So appreciate the time, and if anyone has any questions, Ann.
Thank you for talking with me before the meeting, because you cleared up a lot of questions. But I know you're talking about the kindergarten going into the three schools, the grammar schools. Excuse me, I'm old school here.
Elementaries, yeah.
And back at Moose Hill, that's just going to be part-time, correct? Half days?
No, we're going to go to a full-day program.
Okay, so
They'll move to the elementaries, and LEAP and pre-K 3 and 4 will stay at Moose Hill.
But are they part-time?
They are.
That's what
They
I
are.
want to know
Yep.
if you were.
Yep, they
I
are.
didn't hear the words cafeteria or gym.
Nope,
At Moose Hill.
not
so
needed,
I
because
just
they'll
wanna-
be in the elementaries.
Okay. CTE stands for what?
It's construction technology education
I want the
and
public
that,
to
so
hear
there's going to be a lot of that coming up, and there's more to it than that, so we've got a lot of things coming forward.
Did you say anything about Mike Rowe coming?
Not Mike Rowe, but it's part of his program,
It is.
Bring Back the Trades. Yes, Ann?
Okay. Thank you so much.
Anything else from the board? Mr. Knights?
My son did 4 years in the robotics program.
Yeah.
Loved it. We always assumed he wanted to be an engineer, so did everybody else. And instead he wanted to build the stuff and be a machinist.
Yep.
So I love hearing
Yeah.
not focusing, but, expanding out, because it was always, oh, you're going to be an engineer.
Yeah.
And then he was like, no, and now he's making good money and has no debt. So I love to hear that.
Yep.
What I would recommend is the way that you just explained all of this is exciting and makes it seem like a no-brainer. But when people see it on the ballot, they're just going to see numbers.
Yep.
Right? So I would recommend just doing, I know there's not much media, but doing like a media blitz, or just getting what you said to us
Yeah.
out to the public, so that when they do see that number, they realize it's actually a net positive
Correct.
for them to vote for this.
Correct.
So,
You should ask Dave to put it on social media for you.
With a snow plow in front of it. Jason, great idea, and we wanted to get through the deliberative in case there was
that
any
makes sense.
changes in that. So next week we'll start I want to get a couple articles in the Times as well, in the Derry News and that. So I've already started putting that template together. So appreciate that input.
excellent,
Yep.
thanks, because this is very exciting.
Thanks.
Jeff?
No, it was.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
yeah, I think it's important because it is all over social media, and I'll be honest with you, before this meeting tonight, I wasn't really on board with the whole idea. But again, the way that you put it, I'll echo what Jason said, that it makes sense. But I do think that for the people that were here in town when the kindergarten was built, it was great. They had a whole separate school. Now you're going to be putting, administration with it. It makes sense financially. But then, in my head and a lot of people's heads, when you say modular, There's very nice modular systems. It just means it's pre-built and then put on site. That's all it really means. It's not a trailer.
Yep.
I think if you have renderings of that, I would
We will.
blast that on social media as much as possible, because everybody's thinking that their kids are going to be learning in trailers.
Yep.
And we have this big, beautiful kindergarten already, and now we're moving them to trailers, which is not happening.
Yep.
So I think it's important for you to get that out there, and I think it's important. I don't know who writes the things on the ballots, but he's right. Everybody looks at the numbers. But if you can somehow say what after 3 years or whatever the time frame you said, that it'll be a cash positive, because again, a lot of people just vote to make sure the taxes don't go up, and they don't really concentrate on what the item is.
Yeah.
Yeah, that 3 years is important
Sure.
to the public who's, stretching their budgets now.
Exactly.
That'll go cash positive.
Yep. Ryan, good point. We were trying to get in tomorrow in Manchester. There's some modular units from the company that did some budget numbers for us, so I could do a video. I want to get a video of these modular units and the exterior. There's some in Westford, Mass. with the brick siding, so I'm going to take a trip down there and get that out there as well.
I mean, even if you could Photoshop it
Yep.
to the school so that people know exactly what it's going to look like, because I know what you're talking about now, and I've seen buildings like that,
Yeah.
and they're incredible.
Yeah.
And so if people can see that, they'll be like, oh, that's perfect, that's great, because
Yeah.
the kindergarten kids with the older kids in school, I think, is good for socialization, and it gets them better into the system faster.
Sure.
So especially with full day, which is wonderful. I just think that people don't always like change. And if you show them what changes are going to look like, I think it'll be easier for them to swallow.
Yeah. Appreciate that input.
Mr. D.
So, Mr. Slater, is it true that that the kindergartners aren't necessarily going in the modulars anyway at some of the schools or one of the schools, or?
Correct. Yeah, we haven't worked that out. Matthew Thornton will be. North School, probably not. South School, probably.
Right.
So we haven't worked that out yet. We want to make sure we get the voters' approval first, and then we'll start building the curriculum, which will be a play-based curriculum, and then how the schools are set up so the kindergarten classrooms are close together. Just a note, we will put some additional equipment in the playgrounds for the kindergarten students as well, because they're not really set up for that now. So we do have a plan with these modulars as well.
Thank you. And so, is it also fair to say that these are not your grandfather's modular classrooms?
They are not.
And is it also fair to say that these modular classrooms are being used all over the country already in elementary schools, in secondary schools, in post-secondary schools? They are currently, my understanding is, they are currently being used at SNU as classrooms and office space. I would personally match these against any classroom that we have in Londonderry, and I would choose to put my child in the modular classroom. These are first-class rated buildings. And I think it's important for the community to understand that.
Yeah.
The days of the trailer park classrooms is ancient history, and people really need to be caught up to speed in that area.
Yeah.
So I appreciate all your work, and people need to hear that. They need to know it, and the more times we can say it at meetings like this or wherever,
Sure.
for the 11 people that are watching this tonight. And actually, I believe we're not even live tonight. Is that true?
No,
Yeah. So
we are
We're
not
gonna have-
live. We are being recorded.
they're gonna have to wait till tomorrow to see us. But anyway,
And to your point, Tony, I think I said it at the CIP meeting when we were talking about it and presenting that municipalities and schools are going to this plug and play. They build them in a controlled environment. They buy product in bulk. They can build them a lot faster. They go on some tremendous steel frames. These actually sit on foundations. They're not just sitting out in the field with some skirting around them and that. These go on concrete foundations. They're built to stack, plug and play. You see some units on Hampton Beach that are 3-4 stories, condos, that's how they've put them up. And they'll put them up in 2-3 days, 12, 14 units. And they're all wired that way. So the cost could have been, we could have went to the conventional, portables, but we felt as though these are going to give us probably a 10 to 15 year window watching enrollment, what's going on with building in town, what's not going on with students coming or going. So this gives us some time, plus this gives us 3 climate-controlled, or actually gives us 12 climate-controlled rooms at each elementary between them for our summer programs. Because as you know, none of the schools are air-conditioned, and they're trying to run these summer programs. We have math enrichment, we have reading programs now. We can move these children into these classrooms that will come with AC and heat. So that's another benefit from the older. Don't forget, our buildings are 23 to 75 years old. So this gives us multiple opportunities with these modulars. So some great points. Thank you, Tony.
Sean, I know you had your hand up, and then we'll start talking about some scoring.
Sure. I'd just like to say, taking a look at all these numbers, I love the creativity that went in all of this. I mean, we went from 34 million last year to 7 million on this, 50 cents lower on the tax rate. When you guys say Londonderry leads the way, you're not kidding. So I love that you're taking this up to the state level,
Thanks.
getting this kind of creative thinking out there. And, you can actually provide, better services at a lower dollar amount sometimes, and you guys did that. So
Yep.
thank you so much as a taxpayer and as a person on this side of the road. So,
Thanks, Sean. That means a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Chair, I have
Art?
Oh.
Oh.
Go ahead.
It's a very good plan. I just want to commend the Bob, school board,
School
school
board.
staff
Yep.
for doing what I look as diligent, smart work to address the needs that the district has. And I think this is a very efficient and economical plan, and I think it will address the needs. So,
Thanks.
my thanks to you and everyone involved.
It's the entire school board. It's not just me. It's all of us and the superintendent and the business administrator digging in and trying to find out what's best for the community and that. So it's not just one individual
Yeah, it's
that does
everyone-
it on our side, on the town side. It's a group of people. So
it's everyone
appreciate
working
that.
together.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
That's what makes it go.
Jeff.
And yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Really quick, and Bob, you mentioned that these modular classrooms pretty much are going to last like 30 to 40 years, right? So that, if you think about when, kind of, at least what was quoted when elementary schools were kind of going up, the building booms of the 70s, 60s, and 70s when Tony was in little short pants.
No, I wasn't.
Those were kind of those were kind of
Still is, for the record. I had to. I'm sorry.
I opened it. I apologize. But those buildings, pretty much would last 30 to 40 years. So
Yeah.
now, this isn't just a 10-year investment and then
No.
we're passing it down the buck to the next
Correct.
school board and CIP committee and in town. This is a long-term investment that
It is.
is very much going to continue to improve our educational offerings and such.
Yeah.
And with the high school, I also just want to commend kind of the the board and the district of kind of thinking different and thinking very diverse as from a program standpoint of all the different kind of post secondary education that can go on. So I'm really happy to see that the path is not just college.
Yep.
It is trades. It is college when you're ready.
Yeah.
But going down that path, and I think the investments that we're making there, kind of will absolutely prove
Yeah.
to be
Appreciate.
fruitful. So thank you.
Yeah, no, that's why I just wanted to hit on the high school, that's just been a number that's had inflation added to it the last couple of CIPs, and that's totally going to change when we get to that point, and that's probably 2 to 3 years before we start planning, depending on which direction we head. But it's pretty exciting. I'm excited where we are today. Hopefully March 11th, I'm really excited, and we can start building our full-day K program, over the next 14, 16 months, and then getting out of a place we don't need to be, and back on campus. And then our superintendent's within 3-4 minutes of 4 schools,
Right.
just by walking if he had to. So it's a win-win for the community, And the big thing is full-day kindergarten for our students, because we've seen that need for those first and second graders. That's what's got me, been working on it for 7 years, and I think we've got something that can work for everybody in the community, so I hope they come out and support us on March 11th, so appreciate your time.
Awesome. I think what we'll do, let's go through.
Ian had something.
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh,
Sure.
Sorry, Ann.
Could you define play-based curriculum so I know exactly what
It's
that
not
means?
that they're gonna be 6.5 hours in front of a computer screen or textbooked. It's gonna be mixed in. It's gonna be 40 minutes of science. It's gonna have some based into it. It's not just textbook reading for these kindergartens, okay? And it's mixed
not
up.
just out
Yeah.
playing in the schoolyard all
It's
the
exactly right. They'll have their recess, they'll have their lunch, just like regular class, but it's gonna be, it's got that play base into it to keep their attention span. So, that's what we want, because it's a longer day for them. A lot of them are in a swing program. They come 2.5, 3 hours at Moose Hill now, then they go to either the Y or to a residence, for daycare. This is all gonna have longer curriculum. Instead of 20 minutes in reading, you'll have a 40-minute block, and it'll be play-based on the education piece. So until we get it out there, we'll be able to explain it, but I'm excited to see that come forward.
I'm glad you talked about it, because I was assuming when you say play-based,
Yeah. Yep.
that's not educational-based.
No,
But
it is
Thank
in the social part of it for the students today, so.
So let me bail out of that hole for you. So it's yet another annoying educational phrase that started in California and finally moved its way all the way far east. Play-based learning. In my day, it was called learning by doing. It's the same thing. But it's as annoying a phrase as learning by doing, play-based learning, and social-emotional learning, another totally annoying educational phraseology that means nothing to the general public. And that's where educators get in trouble when they're trying to promote something that the general public has no way of understanding. And Ann's example is clearly what's going on in the community. And I said it the first time that I heard it, at the first meeting that I went to, and I said, this is going to be a problem. It's as big a problem as when we used to talk about SAU 12. Is that the number?
Yes.
People said, this is for SAU 12. People in Londonderry go, what the hell is SAU 12? Well, that's Londonderry. Well, then why don't you just say Londonderry School District? Right?
Yep.
It's the same thing.
Yep.
And so this play-based learning thing, people don't get it. So we're spending $7 million so kids can play.
Yeah.
You got to fix it,
We'll get some literature out.
please.
Yeah.
Please.
Good point.
Put in plain English, what.
And by the way, in '78, I was a full-time teacher at Londonderry High School.
In gym shorts.
No, we had the full Italian tuxedo going. We weren't allowed to wear shorts in the main part of the building, and it was all connected.
The reality is, I actually misspoke. I meant like the 40s and 50s.
That's fine.
You're gonna do some scoring?
Yes.
Yeah,
You good?
that is what I'm trying
We're
to
having
get
such
to.
a good time. Why are you missing us?
So what we'll do is,
Thank you,
Dave,
Bob.
before you come up, do we want to score the schools real quick, and then we'll do the town, or
The board's pleasure.
would you like to have Dave come up and present and then do the scoring, or do you want to, while it's fresh in our mind, we'll go through the school district and then do Mr. Wally?
I'd say let's do the schools.
Yeah, let's.
Perfect. Fantastic. So our CIP committee placements for 26 to 31, we'll go one at a time. The LEAP space needs and full day K in 3 neighborhoods. The CIP
You need to include the SAU in that. That's gonna
and
be one project.
yeah, that's true. And the SAU, LEAP and full day K was put at 1. SAU was put at 2. Does the board have any comments? And I think we're gonna look to condense them into one, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Board, do we have any comments on that?
No, I had no problem with that scoring.
Seems about right. Yeah.
So if we combine them into one line item is what you're talking about, then score them as a 1 or a 2?
Yes, because they're essentially, that's how they're gonna be presented to, that's how they're gonna end up being presented to the public. So with that, we've got one's a 1, one's a 2. 1 is cannot be delayed, needed immediately for health and safety. 2 is needed within 3 years to maintain basic level of quality and community services. How would the board like to put those together or rate those as 1?
So the problem comes in that you have a scoring system that has been modified quite a few times to try and meet the needs of a school district, but it really doesn't.
Correct.
What the SAU project does is it's an emergency relief fund for the taxpayers because we're relieving the taxpayers of Bob, what's the SAU rent?
260.
260,000 plus a year. So it's an emergency relief fund for the taxpayers. It's a better deal for the taxpayers. It's a better financial choice for the taxpayers. And yet, on this scoring, there's no value for it.
Yeah.
Which is going to be the case anytime a capital improvement project happens. Unless there's a building that's falling down and the kids can't go in it anymore, it's going to be hard to score. So, if I were voting tonight and I'm not, I would lump them together as a 1, and they're on the bond already anyway. So, kind of.
Yeah, I'd agree with Tony.
Yeah, I'd agree, number 1.
Anybody have anybody disagree?
I disagree.
All right.
I think it should be controlled by when we get out of the contracts with the people at Falling Water.
Falling Water.
Well, isn't that what the
That's
name
what-
of that area is?
The office building.
Kitty Hawk?
That's who
Yeah.
the lease is
Hawk.
with.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
Kitty Hawk Landing, you're
Yeah.
talking about?
Isn't it Falling Water? No, what am I thinking of?
That's up at the end
Another
of
Indian tribe.
Kitty Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kitty Hawk Landing.
Okay, yeah, do they coincide?
I think that might be the LLC that owns it.
Yeah, that's what I was, the LLC owner, the owner of the property is, I think, Fallen Waters.
Okay, I knew the name was in there somewhere.
When is that, when's the lease up?
See,
28.
28, okay.
So really,
so it could be
the Moose Hill part
sequential.
needs to be done by 28 if we're gonna move them into.
Yeah, we'll be out of there hopefully a year ahead, which saves a year going towards a bond payment rather than somebody else's pocket.
I think they should do the kindergartens first and then fit that in next when it's, when you can escape
Yeah,
that
there-
clause.
I think we're a little past that at this point. I mean,
Okay,
you know,
It's a combined project.
yeah, it is,
Okay.
in order to make this work, it needs to be a combined
that's-
project.
It's like
Yeah,
one project.
correct.
So I think they're both 1.
Yeah, so, do you you just need a
The
consensus, right?
consensus that the board is good with ranking it at a 1, and then.
And that we're condensing
and
those
that
two.
You're combining those two projects.
Okay, so yeah, the board, everybody on the board's good with condensing the 2 of those and putting them into a 1? Or at least we have the consensus on it.
Since it's a priority 1, the whole thing should be priority 1.
Yep.
Fantastic. All right, we've got the high school. The CIP put this as a 3. We all did agree that it's needed within 4 to 6 years to, maintain the level of service they have now. Obviously, the school district kind of agrees. They have this construction ideally in 2028. Does anybody disagree?
No.
Seeing the old high school from the underside, it's time to get that place replaced.
Yeah,
I
absolutely,
think it's a accident ready to happen.
absolutely.
about the auditorium. What if you end up with pushback from the residents who over the years have always,
There is no auditorium.
I don't think there is an auditorium.
Who said anything about an auditorium?
It's in the write-up for the high school.
Yeah, no, there's
oh,
Planning.
okay.
there's no plan to it right now. And again, he said, they've kind of left this and just adjusted it for inflation, but
Okay.
they're trying to get through one before before they really start to dedicate the resources into, you know, what this full build-out looks like.
Could I just to
Sure.
point that might be helpful, any project that is not scheduled for this coming fiscal year is going to remain on the CIP, and you'll have this conversation again next year.
Correct. Correct.
It's like a placeholder.
Correct. All right, so I think we all agree on a 3. Fantastic. And the SAU project's gone because those are together.
Yep.
So with that, Mr. Wally. You've had a busy couple weeks.
Slightly.
Doesn't sound like it's easing up at all.
Well, at least the storm is during the day tomorrow, so your overtime will only be twice as big as.
Yeah, exactly. But as long as it gets done before the Super Bowl, we'll be all right.
Separate issue.
Good evening. So I'll just, what I want to do for you folks tonight is really just present a little bit of a history as to how we got to where we are today. You know, I don't want to dive into all the deep numbers and whatnot. We're not quite as far along as the school district is, whereas they're prepared to go to the ballot right now. But this has been a year-long effort with our consultants working on a master plan. And some of the things that we've analyzed has actually been talked about, and I found in some of our historical files since 2008, previous directors and whatnot were talking about the need of a facility down to DPW. And as recently as 2014, when they did their last kind of spatial need, if you will, for at least an employee area, if you will, was built a small little building that we have for a couple offices and a break room, because of the atrocious facility that we have, which is basically nothing more than a single bay garage for all intents and purposes. And just to kind of put you in our space, if you will, if you can relate, the building was built in 1970. So for those of us that were in gym shorts teaching in 1978 or whatnot, I want you to think about what you had, you know, in your offices in 1970. You probably had a Rolodex on your desk, maybe a typewriter, pencils, probably didn't even have a ballpoint pen. You know, certainly no computers were available back then. And that's still what we're working in. We don't have a lift. It is a pull-through bay, but the bay on the far end of the building is too small for 90% of our equipment to get through. When trucks were purchased back then, they were roughly around $20,000, and now they are well over $200,000 a piece, nearing the $250,000 per truck when we buy them. And we have 13 of them, not to mention 2 loaders. The 1-ton dump trucks are now over $100,000. We have over $5 million in assets on our property. The property is not developed in any way, shape, or form. There's virtually no drainage on it. You can't even find 1 square yard of hot top that isn't cracked, falling apart, punky, meaning there's subsoils are terrible underneath it. Where I rolled my ankle getting out of my own parking spot the other day, it was great. It was 43 degrees, but it loosened up the ground so much that the groundwater was pumping under it, and stepped out of the truck thinking I was on firm ground and rolled my ankle. Don't cry for me, but I'll be all right. But if any road in town was like our yard, or your front yard didn't have the drainage, or you knew some of the materials that were just weeping off into the woods, you'd be upset. You'd be very, very disappointed at what you see. And we're tucked away back there, so we're kind of, you know, the forgotten department. But as you've all come to learn through my social media posts, I like to think, I've been doing my due diligence and educating the public on the importance of public works and what we do. We are out there every day working hard to keep the town safe, keep your lives as least impacted as possible by having good roads, you know, clearing the brush, picking up the litter, from a lot of the volunteers that actually bag it for us, fixing signs that get knocked down, and the list goes on and on and on.
Adding stop signs.
Adding stop signs for a particular individual in town. And in order to do that work, often I see it every day, our employees have to work just to get to work. They need to move things out of the way. They need to go out into a shed that is dilapidated and rodent infested. They need to go into dark trailers with no lighting, inadequate flooring. There's just things tucked away, buried. They have to move things in order to move things, and then when they get back, they got to move the things out of the way to put the things away to move things back in front of it. The storage is terrible. There are over 11 outbuildings on our property, one of which I'm ready to just about condemn it because I'm just fearful that someone's going to go in it, and the way that it is it's kind of propped up on some piers that any day it could go over, and I don't want an employee to be in it. So we're going to have to try and figure something out because I just can't wait much longer. So the reason you see such a wide range there is because when we looked at this, we looked at what I did was look at a totality of a project of everything that would benefit the town. To things that you don't even think about, like the way that we fuel our vehicles, and we don't have a fleet management system in place. Our fuel pump down there is just under a old-fashioned lock and key, and then you have to energize it and turn the breaker on in order to get the pump to work. So we're pumping fuel into trucks. We don't know what the mileage is on it or what the hours are on it. We're not putting that information into any kind of a fueling system. And largely in part, our fueling system over behind the fire station is just as crude. It's a little bit more fancier, but we basically need a code to authorize it to turn it on, but it's not really capturing any real data for us. So there's a lot of inadequacies like that that I think should be addressed. We need to plan for the future, as you're all illustrating. You know, the town is growing at a very rapid pace, and the numbers are climbing exceedingly. In 2008, again, when the town was talking about it, I toured some of the other towns and some facilities that have been built recently. And I went over to Derry, and they built their shed in 2004 for about $2 million. Same size facility, $2 million. We have some charts in here, too, that show the costs per square foot and whatnot. And we done this in 2014 when they first were really kind of looking at some of the things that the workplace folks at the state were saying. You need to have bathrooms are inadequate and et cetera. This project would have been about $30,000. So that was just 10 years ago. So what I'm fearful of is, we continue to just ignore it and kick the can. And 10 years from now, we'll be looking at a $100 million project. And that's concerning to me as a taxpayer in town for 25 years and whatnot, and just being in the profession for 30. When is going to be the time? I know the school district has a lot of challenges, and Bob's been great to work with. We have strategized quite a bit over the last 3 years of and understanding the needs of the school district. And the town is really in a good position right now to take this type of project on. Pretty much every facility has been rebuilt or renovated and whatnot, with the exception of the DPW. There is one other town facility, but it's currently no one working in it. I understand, Ann, so I forgot about it. But the Reverend Morrison House is something that needs to be dealt with as well. But this is our first responders that work there 24 hours a day. If you went over to our parking lot right now, you'd wonder, are you kidding me? There's snow, there's ice, we can't plow it because it's mud and gravel and it's uneven and it's broken, and sometimes when we plow it, it makes it worse. So we just usually leave it. So our employees, they're exhausted after like the last shift. They work 32 hours. They got to walk out on that, and I'm hoping that they don't fall and get injured, get into their car to go home. So I don't do all this stuff to scare you, but I'm trying to put you into a place of where we are and what we work with and work in, and we're not equipped to do the job the way that we should. We're not efficient as we could be. Just this week, we had nice warmth, but at sunup, I knew that we had temperatures that were going to be right there at the freezing point. And where your staff is already exhausted, the last thing you want to do is ask them, can you come in at 4 a.m. in case, we got to go out. You want them to get rest. We know what we have coming up the rest of the week. And one tool in the toolbox that we don't have is, we could park the trucks loaded with salt inside, ready to go, so that they can stay home and they can sleep. And if we had to, if things were getting dicey, they could be in the trucks and out the door in minutes rather than taking an hour and a half to get the trucks fired up. Hopefully they all start because it's really, really cold out. Hopefully the breakers didn't pop on the starters and whatnot. And, you know, and then we got to get everybody in line and get the trucks loaded. And those are some of those advantages we're talking about. And in a busy, you know, hustling around, bustling society like Londonderry is right now, a lot can go wrong if we don't get out there quicker. And when you're asking your staff to move quicker and faster when you know they're exhausted, that's when things happen and go bump in the night and break. We've already had 2 trucks taken out from people hustling around town, one from a person running a red light and another one trying to deliver Amazon products. So, and those trucks they're on the sidelines. They're out. They won't be back anytime soon, probably before the end of this winter. So, you know, we want to try and do the best we can with what we have to work with, and it's not always just about manpower. Sometimes it's just about the facility, and that's where we're really at. I know the numbers are big, but we can work at it in phases. You know, the first phase is probably the largest because we have a lot of site work to do. The engineering of the building, the pre-engineered building needs to be looked at. And then from there, we can decide, you know, wash bay, which is probably one of the most important components of the whole project because, again, the cost of this equipment and the fact that we can't wash it. We've had stretches of weather, as you all know, that have been extremely cold. Well, I'm not putting the guys outside washing trucks when it's 5 degrees out. I'm sorry, I'm not. And then go park it over there and let it freeze up and seize up all night long. So we got to try and pick and choose when we're going to, you know, even wash our fleet. And, you know, the few times it's got above 32 degrees, we're out trying to, you know, cut off the snowpack and ice that's been built up on the roads rather than wash the trucks because we'd rather get the roads safe. So we let the trucks, you know, sit covered in, you know, the mess that they're in. And we should be doing a better job of maintaining it.
So, sorry to cut you off.
Sure.
So to be clear, it needs to be said out loud. So we're not talking about we want the trucks to look nice.
Correct.
The issue is that the entire time they're sitting there with salt on them, the salt is eating the metal, the steel, the aluminum, whatever, even the stainless steel isn't perfect.
Absolutely.
And the longer it sits, the longer it eats, and in the end, it's costing the taxpayers money.
Correct.
There's no question about that. So this is not about vanity. This is not about, oh my gosh, the windshields are dirty. This is about the salt because of the facility and the horrible condition it's in. It's costing the taxpayers money.
And you know, we just heard a truck cost $250,000, so keeping them clean and
So sorry, I had to get that out.
You know, it's an excellent point, and something that I've changed through the budget process, and I like to think it's been done with great success because a lot of the boards have really seen it. But you know, when I call them my cut sheets, but I put them up there and I take, you know, lots of pictures and whatnot. And a lot of the components that I focus in on is like the steering mechanisms on the front end, the brake cams, and things like that. And those are just sitting there, just caked. I mean, some of the times when they finally get around to washing them, we have a little fire hose that we hook onto, and they're blasting it with a 2-inch line for a solid 4 or 5 minutes before they can get all that to even just blast off of it. You know, and that's just sitting there eating on a brake cam. So my fear is they're out on the street, and then that's when the brake cam goes. Now we have one mechanic, so we used to have 2, but can't find too many diesel mechanics to work for $25
is your
an hour.
mechanic the only thing he does?
What's that?
Is your mechanic the only thing he does,
That's
or
all- that's
or
all
is
he
he in
does.
a truck?
So during snow events, he's in a truck. That's a whole nother discussion.
Just bringing it up.
But yeah, there's virtually no safety nets.
Mechanics also require a CDL, considering that's the type of machinery they're working on?
They do because they have to plow as well. So to
Yeah.
to just, you know, kind of touch base on it a little bit, everybody's out plowing.
Oh, I know.
So when a truck breaks, the mechanic needs to come off his route to go try and get that truck fixed or get it back to the shop. You know.
I'm a 7-year highway general foreman for Department of Public Works, where I come from.
Okay.
And I currently work for the state in facilities.
Okay.
Everything you just said is
Okay.
I get it very well.
So you're in my world. You get it. You get it. But the reason why I brought about, you know, the 1970 is because, you know, that is when the building was built. It was fine years when I was born. But it hasn't evolved. you weren't even a thought. in
You're twice my
1970. But that's the reality of it. They're working in 1970, type of environment, and it's time to evolve. They're on concrete. They don't have anything ergonomics. There's no pads for them to stand on to try and reduce the wear and tear on their knees and joints and everything else on the concrete. It's a cold facility, not well ventilated, horribly ventilated. I mean, when we have to bring out the acetylene torches and cut bolts off because they're seized on the plows and whatnot, and you open the door and you can barely breathe. It hits you in the face. There's no fire protection in the building. You can't have smoke alarms because we'll be setting them off every 5 minutes. It's so for the trades. It'd be great. So when the kids can go into maybe CAT and some of the facilities, you see the modern day stuff, should have the trades come on down and we can kind of walk them back in history on how they used to work and see that we are still working like that. All of our materials, oil, the DEF fluid, something that didn't even exist back then. We don't even buy it. We can't even, we don't have pumps. We're doing everything, hand pumping into a bucket and then walk it across the floor and get it into the truck. We don't have lines. So now that stuff's dripping and slipping.
Antiquated is a very nice way to put it.
Sure. So, but that being said, I'll just wrap it up. Plan from here is we're finalizing this document is now going to print, and then we're going to be working on getting it, on the website. Once we roll it out, we want to bring this before the council. At that point, what I'd like to form is a building committee to review this. I'd like to take them on some tours of recently built facilities. There's a real nice one in Rochester was built in 2023, and start getting a consensus and understanding it. And what do we want to pare down? But it's a full build out to include, additional office space down there, so that we're ready for the future. At least it's a pad ready area if we need to expand it for more people to work there. It'll be a public friendly type of facility. One thing that I'm concerned about a lot that I'd like to incorporate down there, but we just can't, is, we have these sand barrels around town for people to go out and get it. And I understand, and there's value in that, and people want it, and we should provide it. It just gives me a little bit of nervousness that, we're directing people to be on the side of the road in the dark with a 5-gallon bucket, getting a couple scoops of sand. And that's when bad things happen. There's not a lot of streetlights in town. We put them in areas where, they're relatively safe, but even on a nice, beautiful, sunny day, things go wrong. I mean, it concerns me every day that we have employees working in the roadway and we're having people on the side of the road to get a bucket of sand. And it's something that I think, again, with the hustle and bustle of the town, the additional traffic flow that we have in town, that we're kind of tempting something to happen out there. And I'd like to have an area on the site that they could come down there 24 hours a day and get it, and not be out on the side of the road. So that's another key component in here. There's a fueling station built into that total price tag too as well. A new salt shed so that we have an adequate salt shed as well. So we would then have a sand salt mix that we need for the season on hand, undercover and dry. What we do now is we mix it as the event is happening. So that last storm, when all the rain hit in our uncovered sand pile, and then we're mixing it on the ground in the rain with salt, and then we're trying to put that into the back of the truck as mud. And so what we do is raise the bodies up so that some of it will kind of go through the screens but dump on the ground, and then maybe let the body come down a little quick so it'll slam through the screen. And now you're going out and trying to spread mud rather than, moisture content. You understand about moisture content.
Concrete when it dries.
Yeah. So it just makes the job harder, makes us go slower, more wear and tear on the vehicles that are expensive. So there's a lot that's going to be coming forward in it.
On just for our scoring purposes here, obviously the construction when we talked was still kind of TBD. With that, CIP still put it as a 1 because there's really no question about it that this can't be delayed. It's just you're not quite there yet with your process that you're going through.
Correct.
So although there was a to be determined on when this would get built out, ideally, it's pretty evident that this is a priority one. And personally, I think if this facility was with the rest of the facilities in town, this probably would have happened 10 years ago, but it's not. It's buried in the woods off of High Range Road and nobody sees it. It's really what's got you to where you are. Because if that was next to this, I don't think people would like it too much.
Well, and we had signs out front that weren't exactly inviting. We've since
Those have been
changed
there
that.
for years.
And I've certainly encouraged anybody who wants to come down anytime. I'm happy to give people tours of the facility and take a look around and whatnot. I've given many. But also the signs are a little different out front and a little bit more inviting, and actually puts us on the map as to where we are, because can't tell you how many people have said, where is the DPW in this town?
Yeah.
They don't even know, and they've lived in town for decades.
Yep.
So now we're at least, on the map.
Well, they said that for voting for the general election last time. too. There's a lot of that.
We did licensing and paint removal and battery removal from our site to give the public an idea of what we were working with back in the day, and that shed a lot of light on them coming up a road that they just couldn't turn around on.
It's excellent. One thing it's one of my ideas is that I wish we could host our Household Hazardous Waste Day at our site rather than doing it up at LAFA, and it would solve a lot of problems
Wouldn't want the public
logistically
down there.
for LAFA. It would solve. It does cause a problem every year with LAFA, because sometimes they're having a tournament. They want to bring in their materials the night before. There's been instances up there that the police had to go up there and actually guard the stuff, so that, because we did have somebody got a hold of the fork truck. Long story, but anyway, so I'd like to do that so that people could, but again, there's just no way that we could take 600 cars down there in a day. And
Dave, what's our mileage? Road no,
379 lane miles. I always do lane miles because
understand.
you got to go down the side of the road both ways.
How does that compare to towns in southern New Hampshire, south of Concord?
Well, I can. Luckily enough, I come from a community that has 374 lane miles, so 5 lane miles less. And just to give you by comparison for plowing reasons, now again, every community has a different appetite for how they want their roads plowed. But I managed up to 74 pieces of plow equipment during plow events from the community I came from. And 30 plus of those were, close to 40 of those were town equipment. So now some of that was from the utility, from the water department. Sure. But the vast majority of it, we had 18 large 6-wheelers, whereas we only have 13 here and really only 12 on the road.
Yeah. So I mean, it should be clear to anybody that's trying to pay attention that there's a lot of, because of the lack of efficiency in your department, because of a lack of proper facilities, that there's a lot of taxpayer money that's being expended that wouldn't need to be if you had proper facilities.
Correct.
I personally think it's outrageous that we're asking town employees to work under those conditions. I think it's outrageous. I think that it's not right. Shame on anybody who's held back for whatever reason for all of these years. But this should be a number one with a bullet, with a flame next to it, all in red. This has to get done. Before, seriously, and I'm prone to exaggeration, but somebody's going to get seriously hurt as a result of what you don't have there and the current conditions that you do have there.
Yeah, and I'm coming up on 4 years with the town now, and purposefully have not asked for additional staffing. Okay, it's most people are quick to say we need more people, and could we use more people? Absolutely could use more people. And I'm not saying that it's not in our future. But more people at the moment may complicate more matters than do any good. Because we're so undersized. I wouldn't have a locker to put them in. We'd be moving back into the old locker room in the old building, which we've actually repurposed to store stuff in. you know, we would have to expand our fleet to an extent. And I just don't want to, I wouldn't even have anywhere to put the truck other than park it in the mud by the other ones. You know,
Just the common sense of
I-
not being able to store the salt and the sand that you're having to use your
we
budgetary
don't.
money for, that's getting ruined because it's exposed. I mean,
The
it's just
sand,
crazy.
the sand holding bin that we have is the original salt shed that they built in
Actually,
80
1987 town meeting,
was the
I
first
was
salt
the one who
shed.
presented the article.
Yeah.
The freshman selectman.
Correct.
Presented the article for a salt shed.
Right.
Because they had
Correct.
nothing before.
Correct.
The salt was outside, it was leaching off everywhere.
So the pole barn that we have, they kind of fancied some sides to it. So we do have about 180 tons of salt sand mix, but that's one round and it's gone. So then we mix it and replenish it. So this plan, what it does is builds another one, removing the 1970-ish pole barn, removes the 1987 one with the expansion that they did in 92. That one would go away. The one that they built in 2010 would stay with the canopies. And we would build a 3,000-ton salt shed to hold our salt, and then the most recent one that we have would become our salt sand mix. That would hold at least about 1,100 tons of salt sand mix that we could have in there, which would get us through the winter. So we're not, it's not demo everything on the site and whatnot. I hope I'm not giving you that impression. The 1970s building would be repurposed for storage, as a storage facility. The new facility would host all of our equipment, expand the office a little bit, certainly build a modern mechanics garage with lifts, which would be great. You know, I mean, not having a lift in 2025, we don't have a lift. Not one, not even for a 1-ton.
But I think it's been.
Everything's on a
absolutely-
creeper on the floor, or
Absolutely amazing for what,
Yeah.
you know, comes out of there. And, I mean, it's set back, I think it's like our orphan child. You
Yeah.
kind of get forgotten. And that's, I think, one of the biggest problems. So I
and the
think
trucks.
people see are the trucks going by.
The
and
trucks,
that's-
we've got to, in concerns with expense, we've got to stretch. These trucks are actually designed to last a lot longer than 10 years. I mean, we can stretch these trucks out to 15 years if we start taking care of them, but we don't. So if we like spending, you know, and getting trucks, I mean, when you got 13 trucks,
All right.
it's like I'm in front of you almost every year. So
Real quick,
yeah.
real quick. I saw Jason. I saw you had your hand up. Let's before we make a decision on our priority here, let's let you say what you wanted to say, and then let's make some decisions.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I bet if you asked people in town, 90% of them would say your facility is the one on 120 or on 28 there, in the north end of town,
oh,
on Mammoth Road.
The state shed.
The
State
state
shed.
shed, yeah.
and they're rebuilding the one down the north end, by the way. That's out to bid right now. So the state shed's gonna be rebuilt down there.
Yeah,
They
they came
came-
to
they
us,
came
to us.
probably
They
3
came to
months
us.
ago. Yeah.
About a year ago, I think.
Yeah.
One thing I would
Oh, yeah, it was a
say
couple months
is
ago.
similar to what I told Bob, like, get this out there, because all of a sudden, like, this wasn't even in the CIP last year.
Yeah.
and
Correct.
now all of a sudden, it's 25 to 45 million.
Yeah.
And so that's what people are gonna see, is all of a sudden, there's this new $20 to $40 million expense.
Yeah.
So.
Stop plowing the roads. People they'll get the
Yeah,
idea real quick.
no,
Real quick.
it's an embarrassment what you just
Yeah.
described. And
No, and I hear you, Jason. I have been reluctant. I've learned a few things from the school board chair about rolling out numbers a little too soon, and then you get held to the fire on that. So, you know, before we started putting any information out there where we just get attacked right out, I want to make sure that we had a good, thorough look, and the previous town manager and the board supported that. We used ARPA funding to do it, and we've done our due diligence really, really good. And so that'll be, you know, coming out quickly, probably sometime late March, early April, and that's what I'll be requesting to have a building committee get going, and that's when a lot of the information will be forthcoming. Yeah.
All right. So let's
Can I just say something?
sure, real quick.
Sorry, Mr. Wally, I would give you the same advice that I give Mr. Slater. is to share photos of the current facility, because I've seen other facilities in other towns, and I would say we don't have a facility. I think we have a shanty village is what I would call it. To the contrary, I would say, move the sand barrels there and have the event that's at LAFA over there, and have people go through the mud and say, what the heck is going on? Because they're right, nobody sees this facility unless you actually physically drive there, which I did to see what this looks like. They don't get it. So I think you got to get pictures out there to see what they're dealing with, because it's honestly, I'm embarrassed that this is our facility. So,
Thank you.
All right.
I just need a justification for the price, though. You know, considering the fire station costs and all that. What this all consists of, $45 million.
So the reason why the range is so large again, Ann, is because we phased it. They're general, numbers known from, timeframes. We're actually building in escalators there too out until 2030. So some of these numbers are really inflated because we don't know what year we were going to plug this into. We don't know when we're going to be on the ballot. That'll be something that will be coming out more as we get into it and have the building committee take a look at it and get the exact size that we believe will work to come before the voters. And then that's when we can get a little bit closer on what phase one will cost. But I won't kid you, just looking at some of the stuff that's in the report and the cost on, commercial type industrial buildings has exploded, especially since COVID. Trades and cost of labor today is extraordinary, and understandably so. But so that's why it's a very generic range, is just because we don't have any specificity yet on what year we're doing it and to what the exact square footage will be.
So if you want to talk about cost.
Hold on one sec. I would like to wrap this up. I'm going to let you talk.
1 second.
I'm going to let you finish, and then I would like to.
1 second.
make a
Start the
decision.
stopwatch. A 4x8 sheet of plywood is $84.88.
Yeah.
One 4x8 sheet of plywood. That's where the costs come from.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
I want to just emphasize one point. These are inflated.
Yeah. Oh,
numbers.
absolutely.
And the point about the phasing. So I think, and we've discussed this a little bit, but what you'll likely see with respect to the CIP is some phasing and some more accurate numbers related to a phased approach.
Yeah, and honestly, we couldn't take on this total project like that. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to work. So it's a strategic approach. They are very inflated, and because again, if I came in front of you and said 15 million, and then next year I roll it out in March, and we get this on the ballot by next March, and then the numbers come in and it's $25 million, I'm going to find myself in a predicament that others have already. And so I intentionally instructed them to don't be conservative here. Let's make sure that people understand what we're up against. And I'm not saying we're going to come in front of you now with a $18 million project and my numbers were through the moon and we look like heroes. That's not what I'm trying to do. We did a very, very good job at knowing, in fact, it's in the report, facilities that have been recently built. They're extrapolating numbers from those areas and those regions that those facilities were built to try to best accommodate to what they can guess at for what it would be in this area.
I was thinking of the Reverend Morrison Meeting House. And because Weston and Sampson did the original plans, and then that was shut down because it seemed like it was a Taj Mahal type building.
Yeah, and you can see where
I don't
that
even
is now.
hold on.
I
don't even want to go down the Reverend Morrison.
No.
I don't even want to talk about that building in this meeting right now. I get you're just trying to make a point, but that whole entire thing is a completely different subject and just not something I want to even discuss tonight. So I am going to nip that in the bud.
And Mr. Chair, just to kind of I think wrap this up, just to some, the committee deliberated on a lot of these points here. And the main reason, one of the main reasons why we did this as a one with kind of the numbers that were there was driving home the point of the need for this facility and the need for the town to really focus this in. Obviously, it's not going to happen tomorrow, next year, year after, but this is a phased approach, like Kelly mentioned, that is going to continue to kind of be on this roadmap plan here. And I think, just, driving home the point that the committee felt really passionate and really, of the importance of prioritizing this as a one. So, Mr. Chair, I'd like to kind of probably close this.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's, board, are we it sounds like we're comfortable with a one, but let's confirm with the board here. Fantastic. I will say, I did forget to mention, that this is a public hearing. We do not have anybody in the public, but for all intensive purposes, I will open up public comment, and I will close it. Fantastic.
Silence.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we don't have any motions to make on this. Kelly, it sounds as though,
Formally adopted.
We have to adopt it.
yes, I'm on the
Sorry,
numbers
yes.
part still, yeah. But it sounds as though the board wants to go with a one for our combining these two projects, the SAU and the LEAP space needs. That's gonna stay a one. The high school will go stay a 3, and DPW will stay a 1. With that, I am looking for a motion to adopt this CIP document.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the 2024 FY26 2031 Capital Improvement Plan as presented this evening.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second. All in favor with a roll call vote, starting with Ms. Champa.
Was it as presented or as amended?
As amended.
As amended.
Yes,
Oh,
for
yes.
clarification. Thank you, Mr. D, as amended. Starting with Ms. Champa.
Ann Champa, aye.
Giovanni Verani, aye.
Aye, Lynn Wiles.
Aye, Arthur Rugg.
Aye, Jeff Penton.
Jason Knights, aye.
Sean Faber, aye.
John Cruz, aye.
And the chair votes in the affirmative. The 2026 to 2031 CIP document has been adopted. All right. Any other business? Ms. Karen?
All set, Mr. Chair.
Fantastic. Mr. D?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to go on record saying that we did have 2 public hearing options tonight at the meeting, and I would like to ask where we stand on our comments to the Heritage Commission.
I believe, and Kelly, I'll let you fill in the blanks here. Kelly is going to be presenting to us what sounds like to be the beginning of the in the beginning of March, to start to make, start to take action on some priorities that Kelly and myself have, and we've discussed, have put together. So I think we should see a pretty nice presentation from Kelly in the very near future.
Correct. So in March, I plan to bring to this board a list of goals and hopes to receive feedback from the board as far as prioritization of those goals.
Great, thank you very much.
With respect to heritage, I can have a revised DRC document that we talked about in previous meetings to you next week if you want, or I can hold
Sure.
off on that until March.
I'd like to see it as soon as possible.
Yes.
I
agree.
Since the wheels are moving on it, I think I'd be all right with us discussing it beforehand. I just want to make sure that, you have the opportunity to present, the items we've discussed
Yep.
but I would say that since this has been in motion for probably 3 or 4 months now, I'd be fine. If you're ready,
Yep.
I'd be fine to
You got
do it next week.
Yeah,
And-
just make it available is okay. I don't think we have to make it a
Yeah,
dog
get
and
it
pony
presented,
show
that type of
at that
thing.
point. I mean, it
Yeah.
just, there are just some things that we're just gonna have to get used to, that stuff gets in the paper before we even talk about it. And it
Yeah.
happened again this week. You'll see it in tomorrow's paper, which I got today. There's something coming that we haven't seen yet. And we've gotta try and make a stop to that.
I think that's kind of the nature of it, how things progress.
Well, I understand that, but it's not,
Same with conservation.
it's
so.
not working, and we gotta make some changes, so that's where we're at on that. Thank you very much for the work. that
Mr.
you're
Rugg,
doing.
you had your hand up before we wrap up.
And what do we have coming for next week?
We have a conceptual site plan, and Sylvia is coming to give an update on the master plan and I am bringing to you what I just outlined for the Heritage DRC comment sheet.
Fantastic. All right. Board looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
A motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Have a good night, folks.